Hello and welcome to the Limitless podcast. This is Deanna Herrin, your host. I am super excited today because I have one of my dear friends with me who has achieved such amazing things in her life and recently made a pivot into a business that I'm so intrigued with. So, welcome, Sara Davenport. I'm so honored to have you here. And we know each other from a mutual business, but I know you worked for 2 decades as a news anchor. So you have a significant amount of history in storytelling and interviewing. And got to admit, I'm a little bit nervous to interview a woman who is so gifted at that. But she made a pivot into a health and wellness brand and was an ambassador. And that's how we met and became familiar. And since that time, made a pivot into a business that you've created over $500,000 in revenue with your businesses in a year, which is so fabulous. And that business is a business of storytelling, you guys. And it's an amazing story. I'm excited to share Sara with you, her wisdom and her knowledge, because if you are an entrepreneur, your storytelling says everything. It will make or break your business. And I'm so fascinated by this woman and this topic that I cannot wait to share it with you. So, Sara, hello.
Hello, Deanna. I am so excited to do this with you for a million reasons. But one, and maybe this is for your listeners to hear this, when I started to really know that I could get out of the box of TV news, I could get out of the box of this wellness business that we both had been in and really lean into my other God-given talents. I remember you're the first person I called and I said, Deanna, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to start a business. Like I'm going all in. And you were so supportive and I'm forever grateful. And that was about 2.5 years ago. And where my life is today and my business is, it is just such a breath of fresh air. It lights me up on a Monday morning and a Tuesday morning and every morning that ends with a Y. Like I get excited about life and business again. And I want to thank you because you've been one of my biggest cheerleaders and I so appreciate that.
Yes, Sara, I know I've known you for so many years, and I am one of your biggest cheerleaders. I know firsthand how scary it is to make that pivot and to do something different because, when we always have believed, especially in my generation, that you go to school, you land your career, and then you live happily ever after. And that's not true because, it's unfair for us to believe that young college students graduating from college know what they're supposed to do in this life. And I believe each journey is just a journey. It's a stepping stone into where we're really called to be. So beautiful story for you. Tell us, I would love to hear about you. Share with our audience your life, your story, who Sara Davenport is beyond the business.
I would love to. Well, the funny thing is, a lot of people knew me as Sarah Allen for years because that was my TV name. And so I wasn't actually allowed to use my married name of Sara Davenport until I left TV. Here's why. They said it was too long, the word Davenport. So when they put up what's called a chyron underneath your name, underneath your face. So my co-anchor was Cambrell Marshall. That name was very long. Sarah Allen fit a lot better than Sarah Davenport. So as the woman, I got to chop off my name and use my maiden name and not use my married name. And that was just one of a million reasons why TV just wasn't my jam after a while. It was all I ever actually wanted to do. I grew up in the industry. My mom was a television anchor. She started with Oprah back in the 70s. We moved from Philly to Chicago and back, chasing her career. And for women in TV in the 70s, 80s, even early 90s, that was the glory days. And so I watched what she did and what she accomplished and all the billboards where she was on, all the buses where her face was. And I thought, this is so cool. But what I loved the most was that she got to tell stories. She got to sit in people's living rooms and interview them in their highest moments, in their lowest moments, but getting it across to an audience and doing it in a minute and a half, right? That's how long the average TV story is if you ever watch. It goes from 45 seconds to about a minute 30. And that's how long a full day's work gets combined into just
Wow.
that short period of time. So I watched her do that and I was like, I want that. I want to make that kind of impact. And so I followed her into TV and I made my way up to the big cities in Houston, Texas, anchoring the morning show waking up at 2 a.m. So glorious, so wonderful, right? Everyone's dream. Let's wake up at 2 a.m. And I hated it. I hated it. I was miserable. It was such a toxic work environment, so much negativity going on in the TV world. If any of you watch local news, I don't anymore, and I used to be a part of it, but it was changing rapidly, and I knew I had to change. But that's all I ever wanted. Like you said, kids get out of college and they're supposed to know what they want. I knew, but then I went through this crisis, my early 30s going, what else is out there? Like, what else could I do? And it really came back to digging deep into like, what do I love? And since then, that journey has just continued to evolve year after year, decade after decade.
Mm, so fascinating. And it's interesting as you're talking about, I mean, I could tell how that was such a beautiful stepping stone to your next journey. So you learned storytelling
Hmm.
and as a newscaster, and then your
Yeah.
next journey was what?
Well, my next journey was getting into the wellness industry and then sitting with other people and helping them to figure out really what did they need? How could I help them, right? They had a need. How could I help them fill that? And I love being able to connect with women and men and help make an impact on their life in that way. I also love the part of that journey that I really learned business without really meaning to learn business. I don't have a business degree. I'm actually a poli-sci and French double major with a minor in art history. Like, and now I own a digital marketing agency. But that just shows you that truly, if you have passions and you're willing to dig in and learn, you can do whatever you want. It doesn't matter the college degree. It doesn't matter the letters after your name. And that's what's so neat about our world right now in 2025.
Yeah. Yeah. But that was the stepping stone. Those were skills that you learned that make you so good at what you do right here, right now, today. And that's what I want people to understand is you're going to learn, each career, each step, it's a stepping stone to where you're supposed to be. And so sometimes women are like, but I still don't, and men too, I still don't know, what am I supposed to do? Where am I need my purpose. I'm trying to find my purpose. And it's like, just keep going
Right.
and you will land where you're supposed to land. But every piece of your life is an incredible part of that journey. Tell me about your family.
Oh my goodness. I am the mother of four boys. And when I tell people that, I usually follow it up with, so please pray for me. Because with four boys that spread between 12 years. This is also crazy, Deanna. I don't know if I ever told you this, but my children were born based around my TV contracts. Because you cannot be pregnant looking for a job, right? I can't be 8 months pregnant interviewing for an on-air job in another city. And I can't get to a new city and then get pregnant right away because they're dumping all kinds of money into, yeah, again, putting me on billboards on sides of a bus, et cetera. And then I can't be pregnant and leaving 9 months later. So my children, literally their birth dates are based around TV contracts, which is so
Awesome.
bizarre looking back on it, so bizarre. So I've got four kids, all the way from a college graduate who is, following his dreams as a biomedical engineer, all the way down to a little 11-year-old who's in sixth grade who thinks he wants to be in the NBA, right? So and everyone in between. I've got another one in college right now and one trying to play high school or college baseball. He's a big baseball player. So my days are spent sitting on the sidelines, cheering my kids on. But that's what I love, Deanna. That's why, honestly, that wellness business at first was intriguing to me, but diving into true entrepreneurship, that's what lights me up is that I can be a present parent. I can be there because with my mom being in TV, while it was an amazing lifestyle, she had no life, right? She had amazing lifestyle. Her career, her income gave us just the best of the best and a lot of great memories and things. But my mom wasn't there for me growing up. I was raised by nannies who lived with us. My brother's first language was Danish, basically, right? So we had foreign nannies that were living with us. It was a neat experience, but I know what my mom missed. She knows what she missed, and I didn't want to repeat that again. And then when I was in the wellness industry as well, I saw myself just constantly on a hamster wheel. Like the month would end, I'd have to start the next month and let's go, go, go. And the month would end. And it was a different type of frenzy. So when I leaned into starting my own businesses, I realized I control how much I work, where I work, when I work, and I cut my days off every day at 3. I'm done at 3. And on
Mhm.
Fridays, I work even less because my kids, I've got to get to baseball games and basketball games and football games. And I mean, I won't miss those. I won't compromise on that because I know these years are short. These years are
Right.
so short, they go so fast. So if I can build a business and still have time for my family and put my family first and my faith first, that is the life I want to design. And that's a life that you truly design and you don't live by default.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I know that that is your priority. I mean, that's always been your priority for
Yeah.
sure. And what a beautiful family you have. But how lucky you are to be the only girl.
I know, I know. Even the cat is a boy and the dog's
Yeah.
boys.
Yeah. I bet they spoil you a little bit.
They do. They do.
Yeah.
And really, our love language is travel. It is a big part of our lives. I tell my kids, I'm not going to fill your closets and your rooms with junk. Like I want to fill your passport with stamps and your heads with memories.
So
And
true.
right, because the more you
Yes.
travel, the more you
Hmm.
realize how blessed you are to be living in the US and how blessed you are to have the experiences you have here. We have so much more than 99% of the world. And to instill that in my kids at a young age was very important.
Yes, so true. Yeah, my kids, it's not the stuff that we've bought, it's the
Oh,
memories that we've created with them
yes.
that they continue to talk about over and over and over. So,
Yeah.
so beautiful. Okay, so I want to get in
Mhm.
to what you're doing now because I think it's so fascinating and you are in the industry that everybody needs to know how what you're doing. Everybody needs to have that method of storytelling to really share their story authentically, right?
Yes.
And we talked about a little bit of that off camera. And so I
Hmm.
want to go into that a little bit more. But even with your business that you have today, you started off mainly doing LinkedIn, using your
Yes.
storytelling. And now you've created such an amazing business. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about your business and what you do.
Sure. Well, originally I thought that I was going to be using LinkedIn and kind of getting into business to still keep my foot in the door with the TV industry. I've been involved in that industry for, gosh, 25 plus years now. And I really found a passion and a calling for helping other TV anchors and reporters who went through that toxic work environment, who were surrounded by bullies, who were tired of waking up at 2 a.m., they were tired of being tired.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew the way out. I knew I could help them. And I didn't realize as I was doing this that I was becoming a career transition coach because I really leaned into learning about how to write resumes outside of the TV industry, how to use LinkedIn for networking. And something I want to say about LinkedIn upfront, just so your viewers and your listeners can hear this, LinkedIn is not about finding a job. That is not what LinkedIn is all about in 2025. LinkedIn, that's what it was, 20 years ago when it first started. But today, LinkedIn is 100%, and I mean 100% all about finding opportunity, not
Mm-hmm.
about jobs. It has
Yes.
nothing to do with jobs. So, I mean, it has something to do with jobs, but it's about opportunity. So I leaned in and learned everything about LinkedIn. And here's what I found about LinkedIn. I love it. It is my favorite social media sandbox to play in. There's so much opportunity for entrepreneurs on there, so much opportunity for people who want to get their story out, their business out. And it's because less than 6% of people post on LinkedIn. They're just literally just sitting there
Wow.
scrolling and they're watching, they're lurking, they're stalking, but they're not posting. So, of those 6%, if you post, you stand out. So, I realized that from coaching my TV anchors and reporters. And I founded a business called Breaking Out of Breaking News. And that's to help my TV anchors and reporters, move on and find a career that lights them up outside of the news industry. In doing so, though, people started dropping in my DMs going, "Hey, I'm not in TV, but I love what that you shared over here. And I love what you wrote about this." And I'm like, "Oh, really? Huh. I mean, I know I'm a good writer. I've won Emmys, but could this be something?" And I really leaned into the storytelling and it took off. All of a sudden, my LinkedIn posts, and I started LinkedIn with 86 connections. At this point, I probably had 500, 600 connections, and my LinkedIn was suddenly getting 10,000 views, 50,000 views. When I had my first 500,000 view post, and again, only a couple thousand followers, have million views. I was like, oh, maybe I'm onto something here. Maybe I
Wow.
do need
Yes.
to analyze what I'm doing that's working and then teach others to do the same.
That's wonderful. That's fabulous. So then tell me how your business works. And you have people that work for you.
Hmm?
And so what does your agency really do to help others tell their story?
Mhm. So there are actually two parts of my storytelling business. And the first one's called the storyteller's experience. And that's for people who say, like, I want to lean in and learn myself. Like, I really want to figure out the storytelling thing and how to get my story out there authentically. Because in anything, if you're not bringing in new clients, you're out of business, right? I mean, you don't have a business anymore. So to bring clients in 2025, you can um, try to get into the Instagram world or TikTok and hope your reels hit and hope, or if you come over to LinkedIn, what really works there is authenticity, emotion, sharing your story, sharing your business, talking to people and not talking at people, right? And so I teach people that in our storytellers experience. So that's a course and a small coaching program I have. But for my main agency for Tower V Marketing and Consulting, what we do there is we actually write content for people. And it's my entire agency is run by journalists. So I have, remember those journalists I talked about that I help find new careers? Some of them say, I just want to write. I really want to make an impact for people. I'm like, well, let me teach you how to write for LinkedIn, and then maybe you can come work for my agency. So I now have 12 journalists working for me, writing content for other entrepreneurs, actually running their full LinkedIn. So connecting for them, finding their ideal clients, and creating a full strategy within the DMs. Because that's one thing a lot of people skip. They'll put content up and they're like, man, I get one or two people who like it, or maybe I get 10 or 15, but I, I'm not really getting clients. Well, you're skipping that DM strategy. So that's what our journalists work on is we really figure out what is your brand voice? What is your tone? How do we draw people in as you, right? As working as you so that it sounds like you, it feels like you, and it doesn't feel like a bot because it's not a bot, right? We don't use Chat GPT. We can get into that in a second.
Okay, yeah, we need to talk about that.
But yeah, but we really write authentic, real, emotion-filled content, both for the platform and then also for the DMs. And what I love from that is I have a client who just signed a client herself. She's a fractional CMO. So she's a chief marketing officer and she's coming to us for marketing help. And she just signed a client. This is a $10,000 a month client. Like this is a $100,000 deal from
Wow.
one post that you wrote for me, right?
Yes.
And then I've got others who are coming going, I just got a $5,000 a month coaching client. Oh my gosh, we're talking 60 grand a year they're going to make off of what we've been able to do. And what makes me the happiest is that they're seeing success. And I'm like, you know what? This ties all back to my time in TV. I wanted to tell people stories. I wanted to sit in their living rooms, get to know them, and share their stories with their world. Well, we're now doing that, but through the power of LinkedIn, because it's such a wide open ocean. Nobody's over there. So when you do stand up and show up and share your story, you're going to be heard. You're going to be seen.
Yeah, so beautiful. So let's talk about Chat GPT for a little bit because that's it. I remember when it first came out, I was actually in my spiritual psychology certification program, and somebody mentioned, can we create content through Chat GPT? And it was yeah, why not? Why not back then? I never even really looked into it until maybe 6 months ago. Just I was a little uncomfortable with it, but you can see that yeah, it's more prevalent now.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's people are, even my kids come home and now their teachers are like, you can't write papers with Chat GPT, but they even encourage them to do some research on there. And it is becoming very mainstream. And AI is something that is going to be talked about more and more each month, each year. I mean, it's going to become a huge part of our
Mhm.
society. However, and I know we mentioned this off camera beforehand, but there was an article in Business Insider just this past week saying with so many people leaning into AI and almost using it as a crutch for their content or anything they're writing, in the next 5 years, so much of what we put out to the world is going to sound the same.
Yeah.
Because here's the reason: ChatGPT does not have a soul, period.
Yeah.
End of story. And it never will. So it cannot grab my stories. It doesn't know all the stories I have in my body and in my head, right? It doesn't know the emotion that I feel. And so in 5 years, if everyone's leaning into that, guess what? If you can write on your own, if you can write and share your story in an authentic way, you are going to stand out unlike anything else. So I'm like, come on, ChatGPT, bring it on. Like, I know this is only going to help my clients and my business. And I am excited to teach people more and more about storytelling because you're going to need this.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
because otherwise
Yeah.
it's going to become a crutch, right? And you and I
Yeah.
have talked about there's some great ways to use Chat GPT. I mean, there's some great ways, but it's not for putting out content.
Right. So I have 2 points there that I want to just dive into for just a second. One of the things about Chat GPT that that I use it for is I put in the information on, what I want to create, and
Mhm,
it pulls up some different ideas like, oh, I've never thought about that. And
mhm.
then I Deanna Herrin it and put
Yes.
in the emotion. Um, People are drawn to our authenticity.
Mhm,
Period. You may be wondering why your posts aren't working, why some things aren't working. A lot of times people can read the authenticity of the information, and subconsciously it turns them off. So that's one thing. The second thing, and I'm going to go way off here for just a second, but I want people to really be aware God gave us creativity. That God created the universe. He gives us that same ability to create. And so if you're using something else, because I know it's hard to create content firsthand, I know. If you're using something else to bypass your own creativity, you're losing part of your divinity.
mhm,
And that's what worries me more than anything
mhm.
is people will be lost in the future, just like you said. They will be lost.
They're going to be lost. There's so many people right now, and especially I work with so many female entrepreneurs who are ready to throw in the towel in their business because they can't get visibility. They can't get seen. And they're people that need what they offer. Oh, there's so many amazing businesses out there that close their doors, that they
Mhm.
give up on their dreams because they don't have the clients. And it's going to continue that way if people don't lean into their own stories and why did they start this business? What's the transformation their clients are going to have when they come to work with them? Whether it's, maybe it's products. You own a store with some great clothing. What kind of transformation? People are going to walk out, they're going to love how they feel and look. But if you don't know how to attract them into your store, you're going to be out of business. Same thing with online entrepreneurs. And so I really am just so convicted about helping people tell their stories so that doesn't happen. Because if you tell your story well, they're going to come to you. I mean, right before we hopped on, I was responding to uh, somewhere between 20 and 30 DMs that came into me on LinkedIn in the last day from one post I wrote.
Wow.
One post. So they're coming to me. And that was what I wanted. I don't want to have to be out there constantly looking for people. When you tell your story well, they will find you, they will
Yes.
come to you.
Yes.
Leaning into your God-given talents and the stories
Yes.
that you've been
Yes.
through.
Yeah, exactly. And I think more and more people are more comfortable being authentic
Mhm.
online. It just that seems to have evolved a little bit. I see a
Yes.
lot more people opening up about things, but that it's a game changer because in the beginning, it's that
Mhm.
visibility piece. I'm afraid to mess up, or we are subconsciously were put on the bench when we were
Mhm.
younger, so we have a fear of visibility. And that was something that I had to overcome on social media myself because I didn't
Mhm.
build my first business through social media,
Right.
right?
I didn't
And
either.
so yeah, so you really have to put yourself out there and you just have to say, you know what? This social media is for me to look back at and see how much I've grown and how far
Mhm.
I've come. And look
Yes.
at it that way and not be so wrapped up in the likes and the comments and the
Mhm.
whatever, and just the trust that it's going to work as long as you're telling your story. There will be people that will that will connect with you for sure.
And I
So,
really encourage people to to open up their minds to telling their story in areas they haven't before, right? So if
mhm,
you have tried Instagram or you've been all over TikTok and it's just not working, try something else. Don't give up, right? Try something else. There's so many different ways to get visible. I actually teach that in my storytellers course about if you want visibility in television, you want to get on TV to talk about something coming up that your company is offering, whether you want to be in print or you want to be interviewed on podcasts or on blogs. There's so many different ways to get visible today, not to give up. Because for me, I realized because neither of us built our business on social media, right, through our wellness company, and it pivoted into that. And I'll be honest, it scared me at first because I
yeah,
didn't know what to put out. And then I
right,
ended up being like everyone else. I was
right,
copying their content. I was copying what they were doing, right? Best copycat wins, you hear. Now,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
because people want to buy you. When they
right,
know you, like you, and trust you, they'll work with you. And so no one else can replicate you. And that's what I was doing in that company. And I really realized when I started this new journey and I made this pivot that I had to be me. And so I was going to go to a different platform and try it there. And it worked.
yeah, yeah, amazing. So, can you give us some tips
Mhm.
on how to begin the process of telling our story?
Gosh, yes. I mean, this is something we could talk about for hours, Deanna. So let me see if I can narrow it down to just a couple of things. Number one is I think you need to get really clear at first about what makes you unique and how you help others,
Hmm.
right? So, a lot of people say, well, I'm just here. I just want to make money. Like I like these products or I like that. No, but what makes you unique? Because again, like I said, people are going to work with you when they know you, like you, and trust you. So who are you? And that's the neat thing. You get to decide when you own a business, like who are you and what are you doing? Who are you helping? So I tell people, can you write that down in 2 sentences? Let's start
Hmm.
there. Super simple, right? And then from there, I say, if we're going to write some content, let's figure out different pillars to write on. So that way you're not staring at a blinking cursor. Isn't that the worst? Right? When
The
you're like, what
worst.
do I write? So
Right,
that's when people go to ChatGPT, right? They're like,
right.
tell me what I can write about XYZ. And they spit out something that's soulless and emotionless. Um, so I would say, start figuring out what do you want to write on. So here's what I suggest. Number one is one of those pillars of content can be your authority. Like, what do you know? What do you know? Like, you really, really know that you can teach others or help others with. So, again, if you own a clothing boutique, like, fashion, you know what's in, you know the trends. So, talk about that. Talk about your opinions on that, right?
Mhm.
And if you're afraid of turning people off, then that comes across. Be authentic, be who you are. So if you say, the trend right now is everything purple polka dotted. And if people reject that, then they're not your people. But you will find the people who love purple polka dotted stuff, right? So for me, I really lean into like um for teaching storytelling, if people are like, I just want a shortcut and I just want to just use the chat GPT, that's great. That then you're not, I can't help you. I
Right.
want people who are going to lean in and understand who they are because it's the process of going through my storyteller's experience. You really get to uncover all these great stories. Anyway, so first one would
So
be,
very interesting. So
yeah,
let's stop there for just a second
yeah,
because this is very interesting because I go deep to the
yeah.
subconscious programming here. Yeah, the number one thing that we have to overcome in this lifetime is the fear of what other people think. When you are walking into your calling, whatever that is, whatever your gift is to bring to this world, you are set apart and you are here to attract those people who you are to work with. Not everybody, not
Mhm.
everybody. So we have to get over that fear. But you said something super powerful about, let's tell your story so that you're not
Mhm.
looking at a blank cursor. And I think a
Mhm.
lot of times what happens, and I was very guilty of this, very guilty of it in our wellness company. I
Mhm.
transitioned from a physician's assistant into that business, and I replaced my income before I made that switch. Honestly, it became about the income. So if you were
Mhm.
to tell me why I was doing what I was doing, I don't think I would have been able to tell you authentically what
Mhm.
my story was. So there's a disconnect sometimes of I'm walking into this business because I want to make money,
Mhm.
and what is my gift and talent that I'm bringing to the world?
Mhm.
And so yeah, that's such a great thing for people to understand, that you have to know what it is that you bring to the table. Our career is not just about money. Our career
Mhm.
is not just about our purpose either. Sometimes
Mhm.
they're completely separate, but that's the disconnect that a lot of people have. I can't tell you what I do because I just want to make money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they don't take the time to really sit with it for a little bit.
Yeah.
And as a TV person, I'm always all about journaling, right? And I know that you're a big journaler as well, but it, and actually part of that journaling is part of the exercise that I do with my students in the storyteller's experience, because what comes off the first 5 minutes that you're writing, that's the easy stuff. But as you spend 10, 15 minutes pen to paper or typing, whatever works for you, that's when the good stuff starts coming out, right? The
Mm-hmm.
easy stuff's off the top, but the good stuff and the real stories and the emotion
Mm-hmm.
comes out. And you can't be afraid to share emotion when sharing your content and sharing your story.
Yeah.
So I posted on LinkedIn a picture of me at this amazing, I mean, breathtaking rental home. It's the number two Airbnb in the nation. It's in Banner Elk, North Carolina, and the windows go from the floor to the ceiling. You feel like you're sitting outside when you're inside. It was breathtaking, and the clouds are floating by. You can see above and below. It was one of the coolest things ever. And I had someone take a picture of me there, sitting back with a cup of coffee, it's a warm coffee, and I'm just, oh, just so happy. And I wrote a post not about how beautiful, et cetera, but I just said, this is what I always dreamed of, and it's kind of the ultimate screw you to my old TV bosses, my old TV management, who thought I could never make it outside of TV. Who, when
Wow.
I walked away from the TV station in Houston, I was making six figures and walked away into this little wellness business, I was never going to make it. And yet here I am, like living my dream life. Like life is so good right now in this gorgeous Airbnb. And if you want a dream life too, it can happen, but you have to decide to make those moves. God's not going to move the mountain until you move.
Right.
And
That's
I
right.
made that move, and look at what I'm getting to do on a Tuesday afternoon, right?
Right.
So I posted that and it went crazy because I had a story in there, I had a lesson in there, but it was emotion, it was real, it was raw, and it was what so many people experience. But
Right.
they're afraid to take that next step, and I
They're
wanted to
afraid.
encourage them.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. They're afraid.
So
Yeah.
that's part of that first pillar of showing up as a thought leader. Part of that is I love being a thought leader in storytelling, but also telling people your story has power. And don't be scared to share it, because you're going to help somebody else when you share it. And when you come off as closed and you tamper down the emotion, you tamper down the feeling in your writing, you're not going to connect as well with someone. I want to hit someone between the eyeballs, right between the eyeballs, where they go,
Right.
oh my gosh, that's me. She's talking to me. Oh, okay, I got to work with her. Like I've got to work with her. Like she gets me.
Right.
That's what I want people to think and feel as they read my content.
So awesome. Yeah. And you're so good at it. You're just, yeah, you're so natural at it. So what else would you say
So for
would
the
be
other pillars, I would also lean into, what are some of the pain points that your clients have that you can fix?
mm-hmm.
Right? Because when you are honest about the pain that's involved, again, that's going to connect with them. If I even looking at LinkedIn or even, Facebook, it's like, well, my kids had the last of the cereal. Man, I'm out of cereal. Got to go to Kroger again. Like, why are we posting that crap? Like,
Right.
that's why I'm not on Facebook. Instagram, I still feel can be very fake and forced and curated and perfect, and it's not real. What I like about what I'm seeing over on LinkedIn is, yes, you have the business post, blah, blah, blah. But when you have the realness shining through, and there's so many great creators right now doing this, you're just naturally like you're drawn to them. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and they're all pointing out, like, here's the pain you're experiencing, and here's how I can help. Or here's the pain you're experiencing, and I have too. That builds up
Yeah.
authority, trust. So, pain pillars, pain pillar, pillar about um, your like what you've done in your past and how you're a thinkfluencer or an influencer, however you want to call it. But those are two. The other two pillars would be about your business, about your experiences, and about your stories. And to
Hmm.
dig into those stories, you have to remember when you're writing stories, it's not about what you want to share, it's about what's going to connect your audience to you.
Right.
So I could share a story about when I fell off my bike and I broke my leg when I was 4. And, boy, that was tough. I've had a tough time running until I was 10 years old. Okay, it's a story, but what does that have to do with my ideal client,
Right.
right? But maybe part of the story was that I broke my leg but my mom wasn't there. The nanny was, but my mom wasn't. I just wanted my mom. And that's why if you're a working mom who's putting in, instead of a 9 to 5, you're putting in a 5 to 9 and you're killing yourself, these kids are only going to be little once.
Right.
Maybe it's okay to call in sick every so often or take a mental health day and
Right.
be right. So maybe that story then took that turn. So learning how to write a story that would draw people in and then make sure that they see that pivot in your story that literally ties them to you, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. That's so good. So amazing. Yeah. So good, Sarah. I'm so proud of you. So, yeah.
Well,
So, what
thank
are
you.
some last minute tips or anything you want to add just to
Mhm,
share with
mhm.
everyone? You've had such an amazing journey, and I love the part that you said, I'm in business and I don't have any business experience.
Yeah.
And part of why you're so successful is you're committed.
Mhm,
You're committed. You've got great work ethic, and I think is really important. And you're willing to learn and put
mhm,
in the work.
mhm.
What other thing would be great for you to share with the audience, just to be able to connect with what you do and how they can have a
Mhm.
business like what you do?
Yeah. I would maybe 3 things. I know I can come up with a good three because otherwise I'll come up with 33.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
3 things. Let me keep it simple. I think number one is up level your skill set. Never be afraid to learn something new. And that is actually, I remember that, Deanna, from when we were in our wellness company, they would say, school is never out for the pro. And
Hmm.
at first I was like, I don't know. I feel like I know a lot in a lot of things, right? I had that egotistical
Hmm.
TV mindset when I first came in. Like, I know enough. Like, what can you teach me? But there's so many different free master classes I've taken over the last 2 years, different coaches that I've leaned into to work, podcasts. I mean, my car, it's kind of like the old phrase we used to say, it's a rolling university. I'm always listening to
Yes.
podcasts in my car. And if you've been to Houston, you know it takes an hour to drive from like one side to the other, maybe 2 hours. So I have a lot of time to listen to podcasts. So I'm always trying to learn because there's so many great people out there with great information like you, great podcasts where people can walk away with just so many great nuggets. So I would say number one is just to really, you know, keep learning. Oh, I gave the thumbs up. Keep learning, right? The second thing I would say is bet on yourself. Bet on yourself. Don't be afraid. And one way that will help you with your confidence in this, and this is what this simple exercise is, I think, what catapulted me into building these businesses, is I had a coach tell me, I want you to write down, take 1 minute and write down all the things that you've succeeded at in life, in business, in family. Just write it all out. And then we turned to someone that we didn't know well. This was in a group activity. And then for 30 seconds, talk without stopping and share everything that you've done. And at the end of that, Deanna, I was bawling because I had forgotten all of the things I had done, all of the amazing, cool experiences and stories of my past. Because it's just, sometimes we're on the hamster wheel of life. This gave me the chance to get off the dang wheel and actually reevaluate what I've been doing. And I had accomplished a lot. And so when I realized, gosh, if I've done all that, I'm willing to bet on myself because I know there's so much more ahead of me. So I encourage everyone, obviously, to lean into learning new things, to bet on yourself. And the third thing is try something that scares you.
Hmm.
Because LinkedIn scared the heck out of me. I'm like, I don't know what I'm
Hmm.
doing over here. Like, I was going to try starting a business, like an LLC. Like, what am I doing? Like, I have no business doing any of this stuff, right? But everyone started somewhere. Everybody, even, the Steve Jobs, right? Started in his garage. Like, everyone starts somewhere. Just Start. Do something that scares you, bet on yourself, and if you have to level up and learn some new skills along the way, do it. Your life can be radically different in 6 months, in a year, who knows, maybe even in 6 weeks. But if I look back to where I was 16 months ago, I made, I think, gosh, probably $25,000 in these new businesses I started.
Hmm.
And 16 months later, I made 500,000.
Yeah.
It can change
Awesome.
that fast, but you've got to
Mhm.
be willing to bet on yourself. You got to be willing to do something that scares you a little bit. You've got to be willing to learn some new things along the way. But you can make a successful pivot at any age, at any
Yes.
age.
Yes. Amen to that for sure. Sara, thank you so much. This has been just fabulous, fabulous information. But selfishly, I just love spending the time with you. So it's been great for me. How
I
can people
agree.
get a hold of you if they want?
Well,
Yeah.
they can always find me on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Yes, my maiden name is in there from TV, so it's Sara Allen Davenport. Or you can just find me. My website is saradavenport.net and no H on Sarah. So saradavenport.net, and you can see all the different businesses I run. And I love hearing from people who've listened to your podcast or who, you know, catch us on video.
Yeah.
Because Deanna, what you're doing is you're making such an impact by teaching others how they too are limitless and what they can create in life. And I'm so thankful that you took that God wink and decided to start this
Yeah.
podcast because
Thank you.
what a difference maker you are.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, guys, reach out to Sara. If you are an entrepreneur, I would highly recommend that you get into her storytelling. It will make a huge difference in the content that you create. So don't just keep throwing the dart and missing the bullseye. This is the way that you can really get yourself and your business out there. Sara, thank you so much. Such an honor. We'll see you next week, everyone. Bye bye.